Good afternoon, Tony. Happy New Year.
Good afternoon to you too, and the same to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very excited to be here at your family home on your land.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for inviting me over.
Yes.
Your hospitality has been beautiful. Thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
Why don't we just start from the beginning? I think everyone's very excited to listen to this story. I think the entire nation, New Zealand, is interested in listening, hearing from you, directly from you. Why don't we start from the beginning? What's your story with this land? How long have you been here? What's around us? Where are we? Who lives around here? Just start with that.
Well, my name is Tony Pascoe. My parents shifted here from down south Taranaki in the mid-1950s. My mum wanted to be in a place away from towns and the hassle and the stuff of towns, to be in a valley like this with nature. And so they shifted here in the 1950s, farmed here. They milked a few cows in the little walk-through cow shed up behind our home here, which was cream back in those days. Dad used to go away contracting, and Mum used to be on the farm here and look after the farm. And as I grow up, I spent a lot of time with her helping on the farm. I went down to RTD school from 5-year-old, of course, then went to Waitara High School when I was 12, which was too early. When you're a young fella from country to go to Waitara High School, it's like a massive shift in your little wee sheltered school. And left school at 15 at Waitara High School because my mum was crook, so I come home to the farm. Mum and Dad couldn't afford to pay me, so I did possums and manuka firewood and pungas, and bought my first Vanguard car for $100 from my possum money, because I used to love being out in the bush.
Nice.
And be in the bush and caught goats and sold goats to the works, and there was neighbours around. There was close neighbours down the road, different families, and then down the side road. It was a community of a whole lot of small farms and Gibbses down at Tonga. They're a generational farm down there. There was a lot of people in the district. So
nice. Moving
on from that, we after a couple of 3 years, Mum and Dad decided they'd pay me $5 a week and keep me, of course. They fed me and I worked on the farm. And I still kept doing my pest control and whatever jobs I could get around the area with a bit of fencing. And then I was taught to shear sheep, so shore a few sheep around the area just with the close sheds. I wasn't a top shearer, but I got to my 200, which is only a small thing on today's scale probably. And as time moved on, Mum and Dad asked, did I want to be on the farm or my brother? And my brother didn't, so I decided I wanted to buy the farm. So they'd been milking dairy cows, but then gone out of dairy cows into beef. So I had to go back into dairy cows to be able to pay a mortgage, because I had to have that monthly income. So I bought my first herd of cows and started milking cows actually down the side road, not here, because down the side road was in full milk.
Yeah.
And did that for a lot of years. And then in 1989, in between time, probably, I used to go to different Young Farmers Club meetings out towards Waitara, and different meetings around here to do with community things around our area.
Did you know you loved farming from a very young age? You were quite into farming and the bush and
more into the bush, because it's a forest. It's full of life.
Yeah.
Full of birds and I used to, as I said, do possums and catch goats, but every day you'd see something different, and you see different birds, and up early in the morning and you'd hear a long-tailed cuckoo right up the valley, then you hear one right out this end, or you hear the kiwis at night time calling to each other, and different things happened at different times. Like you got a New Zealand falcon would come swooping down one day, one come snooping down and grabbed a chick from one of the chooks they had here, that of a small chick of it, and every day was different.
Nature working at its finest.
Nature working at its finest, and I didn't want to travel overseas. I just wanted to be here. I wanted to live a life of here, of trying to build up an asset at some stage and have a life and a family.
Yeah.
So,
And was this all on this land we are on now?
for right up until 1970 it was, and then in 1970, 71, Mum and Dad bought a property down a side road,
Okay.
which was actually about 72, I think, was in whole milk, and so because they used to milk cows here, which was just cream, and the cream was sort of going out of what the factories wanted, so they bought the farm down there for in whole milk, and we milked about 60, 65 cows, which was top, which is not a big herd, through a 6 walkthrough, but it was, you knew every cow, and it was like very relaxing. Very relaxing, because I tried to farm very naturally and not use chemicals and that sort of stuff.
Nice.
So, and then, as I said, I used to go to different like Young Farmers Club and used to go to the to the TNC Club and whatever, to different bands and different shows and whatever. And I met Debbie, my wife now.
Yeah.
So we got married in 1989. Mum and Dad shifted from here out to Waitroway, retired out there. Deb's mum was already living out there. Deb had already lost her father a few years before, which I never met. But so we carried on milking cows, but it was because it was down the side road, it was quite a hassle to go down there every day to milk cows, and we had problems with poachers and people doing things and growing things they weren't going to grow, because I wasn't into that sort of stuff. So we decided to stop milking cows and just rear beef and rear calves. So
Nice.
we did that for quite a few years. But back in the valley here, it was a sanctuary to me, because, you know, there's a big rimu back here that it's a go-to place to go back to the valley, and when things aren't going right or you think things are coming on top, I'd go back here and just feel at ease and feel at peace. And I used to build panga huts back here as a kid, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was just my place, my place of, and you know, in the mornings you'd get up and there'd be a gecko or a skink back out in the back wall of the house, or when we had floods, we have a lot of floods here. When we had heavy rain in here, and the eels would come right up towards the house here, and dig under the cow poos to get the worms. So this valley is a long, winding valley. It's about 17 metres above sea level here at our home, and about 20 metres above sea level 2 kilometres back the valley. So when it floods and rains heavy, which, as I said, we get a lot of, and it just builds the valley up, and the existing road in front of the house here, it works like a dam. But this valley gets absolutely full of water, but the water doesn't come out fast because it's just slow moving, and all the sedges and the rushes and all the natives that are in here just hold it up. We don't get a lot of silting here because of that situation, but it's, you know, we've got 18 hectares of wetlands in here.
Wow.
There's an ancient forest in here.
Wow.
With over 46 native species. Some of them are endangered.
Wow.
You know, the long-finned and the short-finned eel.
Wow.
The big crayfish that are in here. The big kokapoo native trout that's in here.
Yeah.
The shrimps. The native mussel. You know, my understanding is a native mussel will purify up to a litre of water a day to keep that water clean.
Wow, that's amazing.
And the little crayfish, I understand, get under, years of having mates here and different people of pig hunting and catching goats, and likes of people that were a lot older than me. I tried to learn things off them of nature, of what they had experienced over the years.
Yeah.
And likes of the little wee crayfish, when they're only just born out of the little wee eggs under the female crayfish. I understand they got in the gills of the kokapoo, so they weren't eaten by a bigger fish that's in the stream.
Yeah.
And some nights you can go back here in the little side streams and you can count 20 and 25 crayfish.
Wow.
And they get under the banks, they're protected.
Yeah.
You've got the shag, they'll get into the water, they will grab a crayfish or small eels. But the variety of natives that are in here, It's a sanctuary for them. It's got it's got its own ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's they're breeding in there. The bats, long-tailed bat and the short-tailed bats. It's a sanctuary for them because in here there's a huge amount of insects because of the wetlands.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's got its own environment. They're in here because it's not touched by man.
Yeah.
It's been left as much as I could in my lifetime so far in its natural form.
Yeah, and humans have touched so much of native bush and natural environments that people really get very outraged and upset when we start to destroy a new one.
Totally.
Right?
Totally. Because we're running out.
Yeah.
There's very little native, natural inland wetlands left in New Zealand.
Yeah.
We've got one in this valley.
Yeah.
And it is so special.
Mm.
It is really, really special because it breathes life.
Yeah.
And it purifies water.
Mm.
And the world, I think, has got a massive problem with clean water and keeping how many species every year are dying
Yeah.
because of their vegetation, their home has been taken away from them.
Yeah, and there's a huge climate crisis, I'm
Yes.
sure you know. And we can fix the climate crisis by destroying another native bush.
Well, and maybe in some people's eyes, but not in mine, I'm afraid.
I know, right? But that's the humor, that's the absurdity of this
Yes.
thing, right? It's the New Zealand government loves to project to the world that we're green and we're about climate. We want to get net zero, and here we are destroying a native bush.
Well, yes, for this proposed road that's supposed to be going through here, which is probably the next story,
Yeah.
is going to do that.
Mm.
But there's no need for it because there is alternatives, and that
Yeah.
can be touched on, I suppose, a bit later on in
absolutely.
our interview.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, the protection of trying to save what we've got in New Zealand is catastrophically important to do.
Mm.
We're getting massive floods in the country now. Massive floods where there's been huge amount of pine trees being cut off. Massive amount of slash going down, destroying towns. And there's a push to clear a whole lot of native in some people's eyes, but in other people's eyes to try and replant natives.
Yeah.
Like so in this valley and so many valleys around the place, it's already here. It's centuries of native forest. We've got 800,000, 1,200-year-old trees in here. Big ratas, big remus, big cockatias, matais, big stands of I forgot the name of palms that grow. They're hundreds of years old. Big stands of them. Nikau palms.
Wow.
Big stands. And when they fruit and the berries, the bees and the birds and the bats and everything, that's what feeds them. That's why they've got a good breeding thing in there. The North Island robin is breeding in here.
Yeah.
There's so many species in here that we need to save.
Yeah.
We need to save, and infrastructure can be done in a way that can still save them because there is alternatives to infrastructure, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We've already got roads. Fix our existing roads. Just make them safer. We've got a lot of black spots in New Zealand roads that can be fixed. Building new roads ain't gonna make that any better.
Yeah. It's interesting that this climate crisis, we still prioritize infrastructure over bush and native, which is kind of counterproductive. I don't know if you've heard the story. It's so absurd. In the Amazon forest in Brazil, they are building this 5-kilometer long road. They're destroying all the native bush to build this road so people can fly with all their jets to have an annual conference to talk about climate change and climate crisis. Just think about that. So you want to save this forest by destroying a lot of native bush to build a road so you can fly all these important people over to lecture the world about how you're saving the climate.
So that you said that's a 5-kilometre road.
I believe so. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Mount Messenger, to go over the very small hill of Mount Messenger is 5.3 kilometres, and the proposed road they're putting through here now that is 5.2 kilometres.
How much bush is that destroying?
Over 40 hectares,
Wow. Wow.
and will be more because they're cutting tracks to do pest control over 3,650 hectares, but they're cutting tracks up to 3 metres wide, cutting trees that are hundreds of years old to make tracks for pest control. Well, making tracks for pest control was actually opening up the bush and the forest for pests to move around easier and faster. You know, years ago of doing pest control, and I've done it most of my life from when I was young enough to be able to do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. You can do it with manpower and understanding where pests are, understanding where to do your pest control.
Yeah.
And to cut and destroy and use materials to do it is not always going to work. And to use 1080, like they're trying to do more and more, is not going to work. Because
Yeah.
when you use 1080 to kill one thing, another thing will thrive. So it
Yeah.
unbalances the whole ecosystem.
Is
And my-
1080 still legal in New Zealand? People
Yes,
still use
is.
it?
Yes, it is.
Wow. I thought we stopped doing that. Didn't we learn?
Well, people should learn. A lot of the world won't use it anymore,
Yeah.
you know.
And we do it in New Zealand.
And we do it in New Zealand,
Wow.
and it's extremely toxic.
Mm.
You know, they say it gets into the water, but you can still drink the water.
Wow.
I bet they won't get a glass full of water out of there, the people who put the 1080 on.
Wow.
And they say it's not toxic, but why do they put up signs? You cannot take any meat out of this area for months and months and months because it could be toxic. So isn't it defeating the purpose of actually looking after nature
Yeah.
when there's other ways and means of doing it?
Yeah.
You know, years ago as kids and children of today still should be doing the same thing of
Yeah.
doing possum lines, doing trapping, or doing a way of less chemical way of buying their first car by catching goats or possums, or killing trapping stoats to be able to protect their environment and actually have a system in place that they get provided for doing it instead
Yeah.
of using toxics. What happens? They talk about dairy farmers using a whole lot of urea and manures on farms to make production that gets into the waterways, and it causes a huge amount of toxic in waterways. Doesn't 1080 and doesn't all these stuff that people are making a lot of money out of do the same thing?
Yeah.
I've seen dead fish in the creeks after 1080. I've seen birds dead after 1080. You know, I think that's horrifying.
Yeah.
It's horrifying because,
Yeah.
as I said, when you're killing one, like if you kill stoats or possums, the rats just thrive. They breed and they thrive.
Yeah.
And so then the cycle just goes round and round again. Oh, we got to use more. Well, isn't that defeating the purpose of actually going back to nature and climate change and you know, our weather patterns are changing more and more and more. It's like, well, when COVID, for instance, they shut down, a lot of cars went on the road and planes weren't flying, and countries stopped using factories. All the air cleaned, but there was still the same amount of sheep and cattle on that land.
Yeah.
So to blame sheep and cattle for causing toxins in the air, yes, they do cause some,
Yeah.
but the air all cleaned then when people weren't using the road or flying planes or factories were shut down. I'm not saying it was right to do that, but what I'm saying is people should learn by that
Yeah.
maybe using less chemicals and less toxic fertilisers and less poisons
Yeah.
might save our next generations.
Yeah, and I think the lessons from COVID can also be that there are some serious issues with how we look at the economy and what drives everything, because we prioritize the economy more than the resources, more than the land and the nature and the bush and what keeps the earth functioning in its
totally.
natural sense.
Totally.
And David Edinburgh has this very beautiful case study he did where he talked about creating a tax system and a system where we value the bush and the nature much more. You know, once we start to do that, when we start to bring the numbers into the existing economic systems, we start to value these things more than just, hey, we got to build some roads because, you know, it's going to cut time by 4 or 5 minutes travel time, trucks can come through, it create jobs, it's going to bring this much to the economy. You know, that seems like a short-sighted way of thinking when the earth is going to be here for another 500 million years or maybe, you know, 1 billion years, and human civilization is wired by DNA to survive for that long. And if we're going to keep doing this, you know, we're probably going to, you know, it's not going to be that long before everything is just gone bust.
Well, how many more people are getting sick now because of using toxins? And people, probably the powers to be will not say that is true, but there's a lot more people getting sick now because...
It's true.
Because
did you
of
know
all that.
Yeah, did you know that a human being every day consumes in form of microplastics the size of a credit card every day in plastics? Most of it comes from fish in the water. That's the amount of plastic we consume every day in form of microplastics.
So that's why, like, so for instance, this 18-hectare natural inland wetland in this valley and the ancient forest purifies that, the likes of the native trees taking the carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
And the wetlands taking a huge amount of carbon dioxide. I understand if this wetland is drained in here, there's going to be over 100,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide going into the air by draining this wetland alone and taking forest off.
Wow.
And that's come from a expert in Wellington. So that's why we've got to start going back to basics. Go back to see what you just said before. You know, there's other ways of doing it. Don't look short-sighted. Look in the long term. Our generations to come need to be looked after.
Yeah.
And the only way to look after them, in my opinion, and I think in a lot of other people's opinion now, is look after nature, look after our forests, look after our wetlands, and look after our native species. They are totally important, and they will look after people.
Is that a concern for you in terms of the state of New Zealand and our lack of looking after nature and environments? Is that something that sort of keeps you up at night?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. You know, it's just everywhere you go, they're cutting things down or doing new roads or building new places where, in wetlands, in places where they shouldn't be building them. You know, it's using material that are getting into the waterways. You know, your massive amount of cements and your plastic, like you said before, and whatever. You know, our pine trees are getting shipped overseas all the time. We should be building more native and wood buildings and stuff in New Zealand of a natural source. You know, there has to be. People that are out there that are doing it are just making a lot of money. But then I'm sure there's a lot of people would know that there is another means and ways of doing it to actually, you know, to me it's just moving too fast. This is still only a young country in my eyes, and it's moving too fast to ruin it.
Yeah. When was the first time you heard the news about a infrastructure project being built right on, you know, on your land and on this bush and this bypass messenger project? When was the first time you heard about it? How did you hear about it? And what was your sort of initial reaction?
Well, I have to probably go back to 2001, 2002 for that, because there was a bit of a push then for a upgrade or a new road through Mount Messenger, and I think it was Becca Carter did a big study on it. I know there was 2 or 3 guys come to here, and I took them back the valley here. They wanted to look back in here to see what the land was like, how steep it was, how wet it was, what the geographics of it is. And I can remember them saying, and they wrote a report on it, that this valley was the absolute worst place to put a road, because we've got a road over Mount Messenger on hard ground now that I think Messenger was the surveyor that put the road over Mount Messenger. That's why it was called Mount Messenger.
Right.
But then in 2014, if I remember correctly, John Key announced when he was in power an upgrade of Mount Messenger.
Right.
And I understand that the regional council before then had sort of plans for 5 to 7 million to cut a few more corners off, straighten a few more places on Mount Messenger, because over the last 30 years they've done a lot of that on Mount Messenger.
Yeah.
And it's well, like when I was going to school back in Waitara when I was 12, 13, 14, there was a lot of slips through the Uriti and on Mount Messenger. Well, in the last 30 years, the road has hardly ever been blocked on Mount Messenger. If it has, it's only half a lane. Or if it's completely blocked, it might be for a half a day.
Right.
Compared with like the Awakina Gorge up here, that even this last winter was blocked for 3 days because it's a gorge road.
Right.
But going back to your question of the moving on from when John Key announced an upgrade of Mount Messenger, in about mid-2016, there was a little bit of publication in the paper, I think, but there was a vast amount of people in their orange shirts up on the existing road, up on the western side of Mount Messenger, which is a seaside, crawling all around the properties there, looking all over it, and doing studies, I presume, all sorts of stuff, seeing what the ground contour was and all that sort of. Then probably about October of 2016, the property group and NZTA project manager at the time and a few of the alliance that they'd, my understanding, put in place to actually do a study, or not, that's probably not the word, a performance thing on Mount Messenger of how many different options or where a road either could be upgraded or a new road on Mount Messenger.
Yeah.
And so that went on through end of 2016. There was one, I think it was early 2017. No, sorry, it was late 2016. We were working here, rearing calves here in the little sheds that are built around here. We rear about 100 calves in here. And there was a guy drove up the driveway and said, "Oh, there's a whole lot of people walking out your valley." I said, "Pardon?" And Deb was actually out the back. And these half a dozen or 8 people arrived out the shed, and Deb's, "Where are you going?" And then they wandered out here. I was working out the front here in the house, cleaning the trailer out, the calf trailer. I said, "What's going on?" There was DOC people, there was Alliance people, there was NZTA people. I think there was even a regional council. Oh, no, it might have been a New Plymouth District Council person. There was iwi people, and I said, "What are you doing?" "Well, we've walked out through your valley." I said, "I've got stock in this valley. I should have been notified about this."
Yeah.
And it was actually the project manager, Rob Napier. And a couple of the actual iwi said, "Oh, this is bullshit. Didn't you know?" I said, "No." So I actually carted a couple of them back up to the top of the mountain where they'd come from, up on top of Mount Messenger at the summit. And then it followed on from there. They started coming more and more and more. Then they wanted to do geotech drilling on the western side on the property across the road that Deb and I had bought just after we got married, and so we did a license to occupy for that because we thought that's where the road was going to go, and we were sort of under the illusion, this was all going to be good and it was going to be the best thing since sliced bread. And then I can remember coming home from picking up calves from down Stratford at about 11 o'clock one night, and there was people across the road here over in the paddock with spotlights and lights going on, and I pulled up over the road and they come wandering across. One fell in the drain and one fell in the swamp, and they were shining the lights into my eyes. I said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Who the hell are you?" I said, No, what are you doing? You're on my land."
Yeah.
"Oh, we're looking for see what's here." I said, "Would you please turn the lights off out of my eyes? It's quite disconcerting." I said, "You shouldn't be here because you haven't got permission."
Right.
The other night, and I said, "My daughter and wife is at home. If they'd seen lights, they could have ring the cops." That sort of thing went on for months, and it was really quite concerning because it was interrupting our farming, and spooking the cattle, and it was very eerie of who's next, what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
In 2017, March, April, they asked and if they could do a geotech borehole in this valley back here, as well as some CPD holes, which is a machine pushing down a rod into the ground to see how stable the ground was.
Right.
So we signed a license to occupy to do that. It was only a very short license, that one, I think, as I remember. It was wet. I know they got stuck with the tractor and trailer taking the drill thing back here, and the ute, and I helped them to get it back there, and they drilled a drill hole beside the gum tree, which is back the valley here, just before where the house used to be in the valley.
Yeah.
And they drilled down and down and down, and I was talked to the guy, because they had to come in through here every day to talk to the guy from Wellington that was doing it. And I said, why are you doing this? And he said, just to show that this valley is too wet to put a road on.
Right.
I said, oh, okay. Then they brought the big machine in, as well as a couple of diggers to put this big machine on tracks to do the CPT things.
Yeah.
So they did the track up more for him to get back here, which I agreed to, because I thought, oh, well, this is going to show that this is not the place to put a road. And they did some drainage back here, which I didn't actually agree to, but they said, well, they're just going to do some drainage so they can get this machine to some different places. Yeah. Which were still on the western side of the valley. They come out, they were stuck with that as well. We didn't see the reports from that. But Deb and I were mostly on our own at that stage. We didn't have the support because they didn't really want us to have support. And the people from TPG, the property group, were saying that we're an agent for the Crown and we're here to look after you, and we will do everything we can to make sure all this works and all the licence to occupy and all the terms and condition honoured and done. Well, it didn't take very long at all for them not to be honoured. Things to happen, not nice things to happen. That they were just taking over the situation, and our land and ourselves were just getting very much bullied. We were just a number for them to, or a owner of a land that they just wanted to take over.
So these guys from TPG, was it?
Yeah, the property group.
The property group. They just all of a sudden one day casually rock up and introduce themselves and say that they've been appointed by the Crown to represent, and
well, actually they said the Crown, but they were actually employed by NZTA. They were a contractor to the NZTA. Right. But they said they had authority from the Crown to do it. Wow. At that time, we had no idea of all that. We're just people on the land that,
it's quite a lot for a couple farming, and then all of this coming,
put on you.
Yeah, put on you, and it's a lot of work to read a license to occupy, watch the people, and the management of that, the stock and the lost revenue. You're doing all of that out of your own pocket.
And the days and days they were here, and they'd be here until 6, 7 o'clock at night. Then I'd have to go and feed calves, or go and pick up calves or milk from down South Taranaki, because that was our living. Yeah. Because we weren't getting paid any of these licenses to occupy. I think it's written down as 10 cents.
Wow.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So it interrupts your life and your farm and your business and your home. It interrupts your home, your safe place of your home, that you don't feel safe anymore, because there's people coming in and out all the time, all day and night. And we complained and complained that they've got to have a 48-hour time limit of when it's us to be informed within 48 hours before it happened, but it never happened.
Wow.
And it just went on and on.
Yeah.
So it was destroying the value of the valley, the value of everything that's in the valley. And they didn't know whether there was going to be a road in here, because there was so many other options. Yeah. There was just, fair enough, you've got to do a whole lot of work to be able to to put a new road in. Yeah. But I think you've got to do it in a means and way that's going to suit everybody. Yeah. And in our opinion, it certainly did not happen here. Yeah, that's a shame. Talk
me through the options. What are the options? There's quite a few options about building this messenger bypass.
Well, I think there was something like 27 or 28 different options they had through their workshops and through their engineers from Wellington that had never been here. done on a desktop map from Wellington that nobody knew where Mount Messenger was. They'd never been here.
Yeah.
Never knew of the massive gorges, the water and the flooding. So I think it got down after, in 2017. This is very complicated, and there was a lot in it, so it's pretty hard to explain how much. But it got down to about 5, and I think out of three of those, they were all viable and feasible to be options to do.
Yeah.
Of a new road or a upgrade of Mount Messenger.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, in March, April, they did the one geotech hole here and 6 or 7 CPTs, and that's all they did. Compared with the western side, they did a huge amount of drilling, a huge amount of geotech study, hand drill holes, all sorts of things on that side. But then, sadly, in late August, after a huge amount of meetings and people coming in here and alliance people coming in here, a few walkovers, in late August, a group of 4 guys arrived here.
This year?
No, of 2017.
2017, yeah.
And said, we're going to announce a road through Mount Messenger, and it's going to be through your valley. I said, pardon? It's going to be through your valley, and you can't live in your house.
Wow.
I said, it's our home.
Yeah.
And this guy banged his hand on the table and he said, you're not going to be able to live here, and we're going to put a road in here. I think he was a manager of Downer, and the project manager, Rob Napier, was here, and the property group fella, Andrew Hopkook, was here, and another fella, Peter Roan, I think, from Tonkin and Taylor. And it blew us away. It blew us away big time because they had not done much work and all here to say this was going to work.
Mm.
And they said, we're going to announce it on the 1st of September. And you cannot tell the radio or the papers that it's going to go through here.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really quite disturbing because there were other options that could have been taken without taking people's land. And it's not just our land, other people's land as well.
Yeah.
And land likes of on the online route that NZTA owned probably 90 to 95% of, that was not going to destroy wetlands, was only going to destroy about 10% of forest and the environment.
Right.
But they said that wasn't an option because it was too dear. Well, at that time, I think there wasn't too many costings. I think it was a political announcement for National to get back in power because it was the election year.
Sounds like it, yeah.
And it was a political announcement for National because the Transport Minister, I've lost his name at the moment, announced it at the side of Uranui.
Chris Bishop?
No, back when National, and then it was... I can see his face. He's the chairman now of the NZTA board.
Okay. Simon Bridges, was
Simon
it?
Bridges.
Okay.
That's him,
Yeah.
Simon Bridges.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So he announced the road, and I can remember the project manager saying to me 2 days before that I'm going to tell Simon Bridges where this road's going to go. He's just got to say where I say.
Interesting.
That was interesting, I thought, too. I can always remember that.
Yeah.
But when you get told you can't live in your home, and when I asked where we're going to live, and they said, we don't know. This is right at the start of a project that's only 12 months of seeing where its road's going to be in a place where it's ancient forest. It's virgin country. And we've got a existing road over Mount Messenger of 5.3 kilometres that people don't die on because they're going slower. Yes, there is accidents, but they don't die.
Yeah.
And so, to me, it's to put a road in here in a gorge. And now it's going to, a lot happened after that. We went to the Environment Court in 2019 and to do the Resource Management Act. Before that, the New Plymouth District Council had commissioner meetings, commissioner things. The commissioner come up here, Stephen Dayish, I think was his name. I took him and his offsider up here, walked him right up the valley just to see the significance of the forest and all that. It was huge of how many things went on. They announced it, but they didn't know whether it's going to work.
Yeah, and they didn't even acquire the land. They just announced it.
They announced it.
It's bizarre.
It is bizarre, and they had there was a treaty settlement with the Tront, which is my understanding, a subsection of Ngāti Tama. They had a treaty settlement in 2003 with them for the back of this valley and the western side of Mount Messenger to the coast. So they had to get an agreement from them as well. I know we didn't find out until 2019 that my name was actually in that treaty settlement, that DOC signed, the government signed, Ngāti Tama signed, because in the back of the valley here, when Mum and Dad were here, they had a grazing right in the back of the valley here. Then when I took over, I had the grazing right. Mm-hmm. And then when the treaty went through, it was put in there, this treaty settlement is subject to TJ Pascoe's grazing right for perpetuity for the long as I want it. Mm-hmm. So they negotiated with Tront and the board of Tront from 2016 through to 2020 to see if they could put a road in here, and they give the assurance to Tront they would not take their land under the Public Works Act. It had to be by mutual agreement. But the property group and NZTA project manager and their alliance told us that they would take our land off us by force under the Public Works Act if we did not agree to their terms and conditions.
Wow. So this option they're going for, how much land are they taking? How big is your land? How much are they taking from your land? Can you just talk to me through that?
This home block here is 155 hectares. The Section 18 that was put on us in 2018, and then they wanted Eugenie Sage to put a Section 23 on us before they had an agreement with the other landowner to take our land off us under Section 23, which is a compulsory taking of your land.
Yeah.
And I'd actually met up with Eugenie Sage when she had a meeting in town here and explained a few things to her. And she denied NZTA that she would not give them a Section 23 because she knew that there was no agreement with the other landowner. And if that landowner did not agree to it, and NZTA had told that landowner they've got an alternative if that landowner did not agree to the road, option E through this valley.
Right.
So that's why I said they took over 4 years to come to agreement, which was a very substantial agreement in the end. That varied from different Section 18s, because I think we've had 3 put on us, of how much land for the permanent take and how much land for the temporary occupation of this valley to build the road. But the latest Section 18, which was 2020, or 19, I think it was 20, is just over 11 hectares of permanent take on the left-hand side of the valley, on the damp side of the valley. And something like between 12 and 13 hectares of temporary occupation in the valley, in the wetlands.
Yeah.
To be able to put a massive access road into the back of the valley and another small access road on the left-hand side of the valley, the eastern side of the valley as well, to be able to build this permanent road.
Yeah.
But to do that, there was no access to the rest of our valley. So over 100 hectares in our valley we couldn't get to put bees in or to get our eels to feed people for tangies, or to get a wild pig for people for when they have a tangi or a party or whatever, which they need some game to be able to feed their people. So there was going to be no access in here for us at all. And to put bees in here, to bees are a very important part of the environment.
Ecosystem, yeah.
But through all of those negotiations with the property group, which we probably dealt with for probably 3.5 years, under the supervision of NZTA, which we thought was under the supervision of the Crown, but we found out later that it was under the supervision of NZTA, that they wanted 144 hectares of this property and leave us with 11 hectares of existing property up on a little terrace piece halfway up Mount Messenger on the northern side.
Yeah.
And for that, they would put money into a home to relocate us if we agreed to that. And I think by memory, for that 144 hectares, it was a bit over 600,000 for the 144 hectares.
Yeah.
But it gave us no rights, and we had to sign clauses that we had to stop any court cases, any objection to what they were doing, and we had to be gagged, so we could not tell people.
Interesting.
And that, to me, it's not me. It's not fair. It's not sound. It's not reasonable. It's not a thing that I don't think people should have to do.
Yeah, agreed.
So there was a environment court case in 2019 of 6 days. We represented ourselves. But I have to step back from that now, because in mid-2017, we were that overwhelmed that there was different neighbours around the area that would help us a little bit. But then there was another person down at Tonga that asked Russell Gibbs and Home Moana White, the local iwi, that would they come along. And the Pascoes are in dire strait. It's not, they're overwhelmed. Would they come along and see if they could help us, which they did. Which we needed. Because, as you said earlier on, to try and farm, trying to do your work, overloaded with paperwork that was that you couldn't keep up with because it was just too much to read. We were just hounded with phone calls and people coming in and out, and they didn't care. It was, there was dogs barking all the time. There was cattle getting spooked in and out of the valley. It was just horrendous.
Yeah.
So Russell and Home Moana come along, and Russell spent a lot of time when I was different nights. At 10 o'clock, you'd be feeling like shit, and you had to talk to somebody, because Deb and I, we found it hard because we'd talk, but then we'd just couldn't talk between ourselves because it was just so overwhelming. And I'd be ringing Russell and just to have a chat with him and he'd say, just sleep on it. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Sleep on it. Go and have a cup of tea, or just sleep on it, or just go for a walk. Even in the dark, go for a walk. Listen to a kiwi. And then, of course, as I said, the commissioners, things through the New Plymouth District Council, that was intense. We had meetings in town with that, with the iwi and us and other people. And then it come to the Environment Court hearing over that RMA. And that by that time, Marie had come home. She'd spent, this is Russell's sister, come home from up north because she needed to come home for family reasons.
Yeah.
So Marie got involved, and Russell, Marie and Home Moana, we spent a lot of time together trying to figure out a way forward and trying to figure out what to do in the Environment Court over this. We did have, under the Public Works Act, we did have a a lawyer for a little while that we understood that the Public Works Act would pay for. So we did have a lawyer that represented us for a little while, but then sadly she did not agree with the iwi and other people supporting us as well. She wanted to be sole negotiator, but she wouldn't spend enough time here to actually feel the ground, actually understand what we wanted. So she said to us that she wouldn't be able to keep representing us under those terms. So, and I couldn't let her dominate of what was going to happen here, because of I was scared that it was just going to be a material ending to something that I didn't feel was right. And after that, we actually found out through some paperwork that the project manager in NZTA said to her that if you don't get Pascoe to sign up, we will stop your funding.
Wow.
But sadly, that lawyer didn't tell us that either.
Interesting.
Very interesting. So it became us, Bonnie and Clyde, and the local bush lawyers. We tried to take on the NZTA and the NZTA lawyers and the judges in the Environment Court for 6 days, which was pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
Very overwhelming.
Yeah.
But you get put on the stand and you get hammered by their flash lawyers. Hell of a lot of sleepless nights.
Yeah.
A hell of a lot of tears, because it's like, what is happening to us?
Yeah.
What is happening here? What are they trying to do? What are they going to do to this place?
Yeah.
So that was actually, there wasn't a decision from that because of the other landowner not signing up. So the Environment Court couldn't come out with a decision to say whether it was viable or the resource consent would actually let them put this road through.
Yeah.
So then it led on to various court cases, high court cases, judicial reviews, and which was very, very time consuming.
Yeah.
Marie and Russell and I and Deb to start with, not so much later on because it's just so overwhelmed. We spent days and days and night, and also Marie's brother Dares as well helped out a lot. So it was very much a combined effort to try and figure out a way forward.
Yeah, I mean that's thank you for that, because that is a lot of work, and
Huge.
all of a sudden you're put into this situation where you would expect that they would work with you in partnership and they'll be, upfront, transparent, come up with a solution that works for you, and they are considerate of the environment, although there is no argument the fact that they're just going to destroy it all when they have other options like option Z, for instance, or just doing upgrades to the Mount Messenger as it is, and you go through all this just out of nowhere experience that you're pushed through the system where it seems like every person that's coming to speak with you are coming with a bias. There may be some back channels about, putting pressure on you through those channels when the Act says you should have independent, representation and lawyers and all of that stuff. You go through all of this and eventually you end up at the Supreme Court.
We do, but to go back to what you were just saying, as lay people, you get told by the property group and these project managers and managers from down as Heb and Tongan and Taylor of we will look after you, we will do this, we will do that. They put a farm consultant into here, which took a long time, which NZTA paid for, to see what our farming system, how it worked. How it was going to affect our farming system if the road went through here.
Yeah.
It took a lot of time and effort to go through that. The farm consultant said this is a very unique farming system. You work very hard for every dollar you earn to be able to pay your mortgage and survive here. It's just the way it is in this farming system and in this area.
Yeah.
When you've got a mortgage, and then this comes on you and it starts costing you a lot of time and a lot of money to be able to facilitate them for what they want, but they're not facilitating for what you want. For instance, there was the property group and NZTA wanted a licence to occupy to come in the valley to do drilling because they didn't know what was in the valley. They'd done only that one drill hole.
Yeah.
So there was a pretty intense agreement they put to us, as well as the farm consultant. The rooster's going off in the background.
The rooster is beautiful. So good.
Of how it's going to affect us, how it's going to cause how much stress and financial damage it's going to do to us.
Yeah.
And the property group arrived here in the afternoon. We spent a few hours talking about it, and I said, you've got a farm consultant report of what it's going to do to us and what it's going to do to our financial farming, stress, everything. And he said, yes. And I said, can I see it? And he said, no, because it's been implemented by NZTA, so it's not yours. And I said, well, how do I know about it if I can't read it or I can't get my people to read it to be able to know? And he said, because it's not yours. And I said, so you are going to take that farm consultant report and abide by it, do everything that it says that has to be done. Absolutely, he says. And I said, well, we haven't really got a choice, have we? We've got to sign this. He said, yes, you've got to sign it, which we probably didn't have to, but overwhelmingly on our own, and I had probably 3 hours of feeding calves after, and this is 6:30 at night. I said, so you are telling me you will abide by that farming report, that consultant, of what has to happen with this? He said, yes, I will. And I said, so NZTA will? Yes, they will, because I am the property group and I will make sure that that happens. So I signed it and I went off, got inside I think about 11 o'clock, had some tea, got up the next morning, very tired because there's been a lot of late nights and a lot of work, and the next morning got to feed the calves. And then by 9 o'clock, I think it was 8:30, 9 o'clock, people started to arrive in here and started crawling all over the place. And I'm going, what's going on here? What's happening? And a fella came in and said, our helicopter's going to fly in to start flying gear in. I said, pardon? That's not what was agreed to last night. And he said, well, that's what's going to happen. So the lawyer at that stage that was employed was still employed. So I tried to ring her 5 times. She was in some court hearing somewhere, 5 or 6 times. And never answered the phone. And I rang the property group fellow, Andrew Hopkirk, and said, this was not agreed to. This is not what we agreed to and what we signed up last night.
Yeah.
And he said, Rob Napier, NZTA project manager, said, we've got to get on with this. We're under time constraint and we've got to get on to it. And we've got to get on to put drill holes in this valley to see if we can put a road in here. I said, that was not agreed to.
Yeah.
And so Deb and I had to go out and stand beside our calf sheds out the back here because a helicopter hovering around, calves were trying to jump out of the pen. They were hitting the walls. There was a couple of calves with bleeding lips. There was a calf with a very sore leg because it's like a baby in a firecracker shop. They can't handle that with a helicopter hovering over. And I was screaming to the fella across the stream just over here, get the hell out of here with that helicopter. And he just laughed at me.
Yeah.
So very, very stressful.
Yeah.
Extremely stressful.
Yeah. I mean, the theme that's coming through, it's one-sided, isn't it? They just want their way and they want to, they'll do whatever they need to do. They're under, whatever pressure they're on, and they're just bypassing the legals and the respect you show to people, the land and the, environment. They're just, it's just one-sided. Seems like one-sided interaction. Well,
it was, but then there was a property around the side road that we said, if you purchase that, even if NZTA owns it, and we transport all our calves at rear into that because they had sheds on it and a small wool shed,
Yeah.
and the cattle out of our valley to there, so it takes all that stress away. And you build a small home, or actually we got a price on shifting the front part of our home up on Mount Mission to our terrace. The quote was $18,000 on piles. That's for the 4 bedrooms and the lounge, and build a kitchen and a laundry and all that on the back of it.
Yeah.
We'll agree to all this. And they went, no.
Wow.
And I'm going, this is a way out for you. No. Why not? Because we just want to get in here and do our stuff.
Yeah.
So we give them a way out so many times. And then when the bit later on the property group fellow arrived here and wanted me to sign more things. Oh no, before that, sorry, we were having discussions. And I said, we've got to have a home. He said, it's all about a home. I said, our home is our home. This is the only home I've lived in all my life. And you want to take a home away from us?
This guy seems like he's got no professionalism or manners in how to deal with people. Sounds like it. But
well, he said to me, he said, you'll never get a home out of me.
Yeah.
And that turned a switch in me that I don't want to accommodate these people anymore without actually getting respect and getting people around me.
Yeah, sounds very colonial type behaviour.
Around us as a family.
Shady.
And around this valley to actually, start using a bit of respect.
Yes.
And we've, as I said, we spent 3.5 years with the property group thinking that they had delegated authority to negotiate under the Public Works Act.
Yeah.
But with the massive amount of work that Russell and Marie and other people have done as well to help us and the experience they've got, we've had to keep going forward to try and get the law to abide by the law.
Yeah. Yes.
For these contractors and the NZTA and everybody to say, you can't keep treating people like this.
Yeah.
And I met a whole lot of people that's been treated the same way, and it's destroyed their lives, destroyed their relationship. There's people sick. We've been sick. It is so stressful. You get sick because you can't keep working 18 hours a day and not eat properly and no sleep.
Yeah.
Through the bullying of what this, and it doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah. This is a great example of, showcasing how terrible New Zealand can be with complex infrastructure projects, how they manage it, the whole announcement before even securing land, and just, making it all political, using the media, running through it, and then they've done a really good job of making people like yourself and others like the villains of this and the bad guys, and the delays are happening because of Tony Pascoe and the Pascoe family, and the delays are, what about the, you said, it's going to be $200 million for the project. Now it's going to cost $500 million. What is the return for this? Why are you doing this? It's the delays. We're going to slam you, and because you're causing this. So, there's a lot there going on, which exposes a lot of the incompetencies, the incapabilities, the lack of dealing with people, the lack of agreements, the lack of following the law. I can write a list.
Well, that $200 million for this road of 5.2 kilometres, which we knew was never ever going to be doable at $200 million. You can't do that through a gorge and through ancient forest. In this sort of country. Mm-hmm. But even at $200 million, it only made 50 cents in the dollar. It was 0.5. And in 2021, I think it was, they put it up to 280 million. And they hadn't done a shovelful of started a road. By that stage, they'd got agreement with Tront, which cost them a fortune. And in 2022, before they started this project, which they still didn't have our land, and my understanding was that all land had to be acquired before any earthworks were started, But in OIA that Marie and Russell and I and all of us worked very hard to get, that
They're very smart around when people make official information act requests. They're very smart around not giving you all the information, taking their time,
Yes.
delaying it, putting pressure on. So I appreciate how hard that work can be.
But out of all the options, option Z was at the online one was 382, and this one here was 199.6. So that's why the Environment Court agreed to this one for financial restraints of that's all that they would say this road's going to cost.
Yeah.
And I think at the time the NZTA board only allocated 150 million.
Yeah.
But at 2020, we asked for all these different options, and we knew there was another revised options here. We had an inkling because we were talking to other engineers and people that were involved earlier on. They said there's something going on here. So under an OIA in 2022, we found a revised option Z, nearly a whole kilometre shorter.
Yeah.
As I said before, only 10% environment damage on hard ground over Mount Messenger for 206 million, which NZTA people and Alliance people, I will say, I don't know whether it's right or not, held from the NZTA board, held from the New Plymouth District Council, held from us, held from the iwi, because the iwi were in favour. The Toronto iwi of the people in that treaty settlement were in favour of the online one. But after 4 years of negotiation and what they got, they probably thought, well, they'll get their massive amount of money and extra massive amount more land, so they'll take it. But originally they agreed to the online one, but they did not know about the revised option Z.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's I look at it and I'm going, how are you going to complete this? It looks like, they're sort of going towards just canning the whole thing and doing some upgrades or going for a cheaper option.
Well, last year I think it was, it was 280 million. They'd done about 12% of earthworks, and we got an OA. I think it had already gone to 289 million. They got extra 65 million, I think it was, to carry on, and then by just after Christmas it was already 307 million, 15% of earthworks done. Just before Christmas this last year, they announced it to $590 million for the central and the southern part of the Mount Messenger bypass, which is only not quite half the length of this bypass.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, the Environment Court agreed to this at 200 million for the whole job.
Wow.
And so where does that financial restraint come in?
Yeah.
If this was a private entity doing or private business doing this, the banks would have shut them down years ago.
Yeah. Yes.
This seems like a job that's just going to soak up so much money that our next generations are going to have to pay for a road that's 100 metres shorter than the existing road we've got now, with no passing lanes, no lay-bys, a 235 metre tunnel, which is 5 metres shorter, I understand, from having air-conditioned ventilation.
Yeah.
A 125 metre curved bridge on the southern side of Mount Messenger that's going to be in the dark and in the frost and wet.
Yeah, I spent a day yesterday just talking to ChatGPT about this. It's an artificial intelligence app, and you can converse with it. It's very intelligent, very smart. And it reckons that this is going to return $190 million, and it's already in a loss. And they're just going to, it's like, what? So I don't think that they are going to complete this as a successful thing. I think this is definitely going to be one of those projects for many, many years to come that it's a failure, to be honest, if I use that word.
Well,
Don't want to be harsh, but
I estimate they've probably only done about 30% of earthworks at this stage. And with the Supreme Court decision coming out, which has made the delegation of what they've done to us in all the court cases for the last 7 or 8 years.
congrats
unlawful.
on that, by the way. Congrats on that.
Thank
You got to
you.
take a win. You got to take a win.
Well, the win is actually, in all of our opinion, is for everybody, because
Yes.
the law is now said that this has maybe been illegal for the last 30 years
Wow.
under the Public Works Act.
Yeah.
Because
How many people may have suffered because
how
of
many
this?
people have suffered,
Yeah.
and who's going to be next?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
There's always somebody
You
next.
know, if we don't know what's going to happen
Yeah.
next.
And with
We've
the
had-
fast track bill, they want to acquire more land. They want to fast track things. They want to push and
and take people's rights away
yeah.
from them.
Yeah, it's
Total
yeah.
take their rights away from them,
Yeah.
and the ability to object to something
Yes.
that they have got every right to object to.
Yes.
But,
Yes.
we don't know what's going to happen going forward from here. But if the Minister of Lands or his delegate has got to negotiate with us now, as the Supreme Court said, or it's put back to the High Court, my thoughts of the Public Works Act is, if there's an alternative to not taking somebody's land, their business, their home away from them, if there's an alternative that's viable and feasible, that Minister of Lands has to turn every stone to see if that should be done, and not by taking people's, to take your land away from you. It's like cutting off your right arm. It's your life.
Yeah.
Some people have it as a material thing, but a lot of people, their heart is totally in it,
Yeah.
of protecting everything that's in there. And in country like this, and you grow up in country like this, which Marie and Russell and so many other people around here have done,
Yeah.
it's you. It's you want to protect every inch of that soil, every worm that's in that soil, that's irrigating that soil and protecting that soil, and every little species that's there that makes it work. You want to protect it.
Yeah.
So I really feel that the government and the Minister of Lands and the Transport Minister and whoever else needs to be, and the NZTA board, has to absolutely relook at this, because the money they've spent, and they haven't got very far,
Yeah.
they've got a way out. And I think we can all make that happen.
Yeah.
And so everybody can be happy. Everybody can still get work. Everybody can still get a living.
Yeah.
But then if you do it the right way, maybe years and people to come will actually appreciate that wetland and 2/3 of that ancient forest is still there. And those 46 species and those long-tailed bats that are totally endangered, and their habitat's totally endangered,
Yeah.
for likes in 2021, April 2021, they blocked up
Yeah.
to 35
Yeah.
bat roost holes and pulled epiphytes off tree and put building foam in there that they said they didn't do. We found
Wow.
out they did it,
Wow.
and nobody got pulled across the
Wow.
holes for it.
Tell me that a bit more. What did they do with the bat roosts?
Well, I used to go up Mount Messenger most days to see what was going on and look at the farm, make sure there's no cattle on the road or no cars through my fence and what it is. And in March 2021, there was whole lots of people and different vehicles up at the summit and their car park up here, and I thought, there's something going on, and there's people with ropes and what, and they must be climbing trees, and what the hell are they doing?
Yeah.
Then a mate from New Plymouth said, I think there's arbiters and all that sort of stuff, and they're carting stuff in there. They want to, they're blocking up bat holes so they don't have to mitigate for them.
Wow.
And I said, they shouldn't be doing that. And so we asked, and they wouldn't tell us. I think Robin Martin from Radio New Zealand asked, and they said, no, we're not doing that. But within, I think it was 6 months after that, under the Official Information Act, we got photos. Marie got photos, because it's Marie's computer that we use, her email address we use.
Photos of bat roosts?
Photos of building film coming out of trees, of their bat roosts that they'd put in during the day, and
Wow.
epiphytes pulled off trees. And I think it was up to about 35 trees.
35 trees.
So
Wow.
has that just destroyed the bat colony in here? I can take you back the valley here now. I can show you trees that they haven't touched yet. And you know how you'll get cobwebs over a dead tree
Yeah.
where spiders make their home?
Yeah. Yes, yes.
Well, I can show you trees where there's no cobwebs over some holes in trees. And to me, if there's no cobwebs over there, a bat or something's going in and out of there.
Yeah.
And we can show you a couple of trees that we think is maternity roosts for the female bats.
Wow. Is that legal for a government to do? To just, put builders' foam in a bat's roost and destroy bat habitats? Is that legal?
Well, if you're going to do it, I don't want to be with you because you'll be in prison for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like an illegal thing to do.
It's a totally...
and they have gotten away with it. They haven't been,
Seems to me like they have.
Wow.
They haven't been prosecuted.
Yeah. And the bats are still around here? Have you seen them or,
They're still here.
Okay.
They're still here. They haven't destroyed them all, but how many did they kill? How many did they deplete out of this valley?
Yeah, it's insane. It's an
um,
endangered animal, isn't it?
Well,
but is it
Environment Law Initiative, ELI, took them to court over the Wildlife Act here because they got permits to be able to kill and remove native species here. They
Yeah.
had permits that were not legal.
Yeah.
So ELI took them to court and won it. But nothing's happened through it. It hasn't stopped it. So the government put a fast track things through so they could kill wildlife and kiwis to put a road in.
Insane. Yeah, and they're out there lecturing the public about ecological restoration, replanting, this and that, but they're out there, doing these dodgy practices that are, killing endangered bats.
It's horrifying.
It is horrifying.
It's horrifying. People
Yeah.
come here and they've never heard a kiwi before. They'll
Yeah.
hear a kiwi.
Yeah.
Well, we'll
Yeah.
go back. This groups of us. Marie and I have taken so many people back here, and Russell to start with, and Deb to start with. But Marie and I have done so many trips back here with people. People will cry when they see the two big ratas back here, and the animals and the epiphytes in them, and the flowers up on big. I can't pronounce the name of it. It's like a native daisy that's only seen every few years.
Yeah.
And they're on this big remu back here, on this kaikatea back here. And the rata's in full flower every second or third year. And they're massive. We call them the twin towers. They've grown over a pukatea tree from a rata root like so this round or this round and taken over this tree. And they're 100 feet tall.
Wow.
And the life that's in there, the wetters. There's a guy I know that studies orchids, and he reckons there's over 70 species of orchids and through this Mount Messenger, and there's some species in here that's nowhere else in New Zealand.
Wow.
So it's unique, and there's an alternative. And I'm afraid I'll keep pushing the fact there's an alternative
Yeah.
that would help everybody. And people say you're trying to stop people work. We're not trying. We've never been opposed to a bypass or an upgrade because every option took some of our land, one of our pieces of land.
Yeah.
So we were never opposed to any of it.
Yeah.
But we're opposed to doing something that's financially insane and financially killing an environment that's got no need to be killed.
Yeah.
And the flooding that's going to be in this valley,
Yeah.
if they do more and more work in here, it's going to destroy the whole Tonga
Yeah.
estuary, all the breeding of the whitebait, the crayfish, the
Yeah.
eels, they're all going to
Yeah.
die.
Yeah, I think we should remove this some sort of power that the government seem to have somehow acquired to show up and say, I'm taking your land, I can give you a notice, and I have the powers to do that. That sounds insane, especially given the history of this government and what they have done with, coming to New Zealand in the first place. That sounds insane. That's like, what? You mean that you want to continue taking people's land without, their wish? Is that you want to, I thought you had enough of that 150 years ago, right? But it's I think we should just take that out, because so much of individual rights seems to be just diminished and they're just going away, and there's more and more government gets bigger and bigger, and citizens and their rights and in their freedoms get lesser and lesser.
Local knowledge of any area is a massive thing that people and industry and corporate should be listening to. It was on the TV a few months ago, a
Yeah.
big report on it. people are not listening to people in the areas for any sort of infrastructure, whether it's a road, a sewage, whether it's a building or whatever it is. Listen to the people. They know where the water runs. They know where the wind goes. They know what of what can happen there.
Yeah, respect.
And that could save millions of dollars.
Mm.
And save a whole lot of people a hell of a lot of stress and save the environment.
Yeah, it's a big business. All these businesses, engineering firms, construction, architecture. It's a big business. They're all in with the government. They all lobby each other. There was a judge that was involved in your court hearings. One of them, I can't recall which one, was hosted for his retirement party by NZTA. And you're like, what is going on over here? If you want to understand behavior, you got to look at incentives. It's very simple. And you can start to connect the dots, and you start to realize that, they're just stepping all over people's rights, people's lands, and there is no respect. They just want to get something done. It looks nice in the media. It's a political thing. There's an election coming. There's an election on this year, so it's, it's just not right.
That judge that you just spoke about was Brian Dwyer. We had him in the Environment Court in 2019, and we also had him in the PWA Public Works Environment hearing in late 2023.
Right. Yeah.
And he, in his decision, he said the Pascoes refused to negotiate. Well, guess what? The Supreme Court come out and said the Pascoes never refused to negotiate. So his decision on his fair, sound and reasonable of taking our land is because we refused to negotiate. We begged the LINZ officials to negotiate with us because we found out that the property group and NZTA have got no delegated authority to negotiate with us, and whatever the property group agree to, LINZ will not stand up and abide by it, because they will not abide by the property. I'm probably not saying the right words for that, but they have got no obligation to abide by what the property group have got, because they've got no delegated authority.
Yeah.
So Judge Brian Dwyer put $180,000 court costs on us for that PWA hearing for the Minister of Lands.
Yeah.
And now the Supreme Court has said that we did negotiate and the delegation was not lawful.
Yeah.
So where does that leave them and where does that leave us now? We've had this hanging over us for quite a few years now of huge court costs and threats of that if you don't take this, you will get nothing and you'll have nowhere to live. And somehow we've stuck it out because we think it's wrong of what they're doing.
Good for you, yeah.
And
it's a good reminder to remind people that you got to fight very hard for your rights and your liberties. If you don't do that, they'll just take it away from you. It's a good reminder.
Can only
it's
do
a great
that
case.
if you've got support
which got
from
me
people.
excited, right? It got me excited. When I saw the story, I was like, I need to go talk to Tony about this.
And the only reason one of the reasons, probably because of my stubbornness and whatnot, the reason that we're still here is because we've got support from very, very incredibly good people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people from around the country.
Yes.
We've people have dropped off food at the gate and we don't know who they were.
Nice.
That sort of thing. It keeps you going.
Yes.
It does give you a few hours sleep at night time.
Yes.
Yeah.
People are very lovely in New Zealand, very hospitable.
They can be, but they can be very, very bad as well. I've been abused.
Sure.
I've had animals shot.
Sure.
I've had things written in the tunnel up there. Pascoe, all sorts of things.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think you've just probably got to try and get through it and go and talk to the people that you know.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you you're a bit of an idiot, but I still like you. Something like that.
What do you say? I read an article from the Post that the Minister of Land Information, Chris Pink, slams the Pascoes for causing all the delays and things like that. What do you say to that? Do you agree to those statements that you have caused delays to this project, or you see it differently? What do you have to say to that?
Well, we've asked Minister Pink to meet with us.
Mm-hmm.
And the Court of Appeal, and the last Court of Appeal one, said to the Crown lawyers, Crown law lawyers, it is not too late for the minister to negotiate with the Pascoes
Yeah.
and make a way forward.
Yeah.
And as I said, we've asked him to meet. We've asked all the ministers right from day dot right through to meet, and Lynn's officials to meet with us,
Yeah.
and they've denied us that. So we haven't met Chris Penn, so I don't know what sort of a man he is or anything else.
Yeah.
But for him to put these court costs on us and to publicly put us in a bad spot, I don't think's fair.
Yeah.
I very much try not to do that to people, and I don't like other people doing it to people like they have to a lot of our people when it's not true. And maybe the Transport Minister and Chris Bishop and maybe Chris Pink and the Prime Minister or Lynn's officials or the Board of NZTA, maybe they should actually give us the option of having a meeting and look face to face and let's make a way forward. Because I think it's on them to make the move, and it's not up to us to say what we want or go to them. I think it's obligated on them through the Public Works Act to fulfil their duty to every citizen in this country.
Yeah.
Because people say it'll never happen to us. You don't know. You could be next.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people were treated.
Constitutional law, the rule of law.
Yeah.
They're just disregarding it.
A lot of people were treated badly during the pandemic. I was told to shut down my business, and there's no revenue to it. And people lost their marriages, their jobs, their houses. They were Air New Zealand pilots. One day they're flying around the world. Next day they lost their home. They're sleeping, in someone's backyard, in someone's spare room. I got in business with the New Plymouth District Council in 2022, and Gareth Green came over and they screwed me over. They stole one of my businesses and it's still in a dispute. These government type people don't do themselves any favor in terms of, earning trust and dealing with it. And, I contacted the new mayor, Max, about this, and, they don't care. They don't care about businesses. They don't care about people. And if they want to screw you over and treat you in disrespectful ways, they'll do it because they have their own intentions and their own agenda to do and their own thing to achieve. And unfortunately, there's a lot of those kind of stories around New Zealand. There's a lot of them.
But one of many sad parts of that is they turn people against people.
They do.
And that is the problem. People that didn't want to have that jab and somebody else in their family said, well, no, you've got to have it. Unless you have it, I don't want to know you anymore.
Exactly.
Things like that. It's turning people bad.
Yeah, that was evil. What Jacinda did to New Zealand was incredibly evil. And I think people are very, very dark about it still today. Nothing about it was kindness. That was just a play, it's a propaganda type, machine.
And people make a lot of money out of it.
Yeah. She was more authoritarian than any prime minister I've ever seen, Nothing about it was kind.
But sadly...
people made a lot of money out of that too.
Yes, sadly, a lot of politicians, no matter what party they belong to, are the same way.
Yeah.
Because they don't actually get on the ground and see what people need.
Yeah, this is why trust in government's all-time low. People want lesser government. People want more individual rights and liberties. People want more, businesses that was destroyed. Hundreds and thousands of businesses were destroyed during the pandemic, For a virus that was like, it was nothing major. It's like, okay, you need to be sophisticated enough to deal with it. Don't tell me that I can't, do this. And Cam Slater was the one who revealed the story that the lockdowns were illegal, and then quickly they passed a law to make it legal.
As they've done with Mount Messenger over the Wildlife Act.
Yeah.
The Fast Track Act is through Mount Messenger.
Yeah.
And it's like the people in care. And I can't remember the name of the word, of people that have been abused for so many years.
Yes.
And the police, of what's come out in the police
Yeah.
commission and all this sort of stuff.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
people wonder why we don't trust authority.
It's crazy, You're the deputy police commissioner and you're watching porn and child, and he gets away with it. He just gets house arrest. It's like, what is going on over here? New Zealand has a huge pedophile issue, by the way. We're going on a weave here, but the pedophiles are everywhere. It's very concerning.
Family abuse in New Zealand is one of the worst in the Western world.
Every 4 hours, apparently, the police gets a call for a domestic abuse, violence issue. Every 4 hours.
But what's the follow-up from that of actually to stop it? What's put in place to be able to stop that generational problem?
Yes. Yeah, not much.
And the respect that the authorities, the police, and so many people have lost now.
Yeah.
Can you blame people? And it shouldn't be like this.
No, you have to go back to community where, appreciate the community more, respect the neighbor more, not the economy, and not just screw people over because you want to get something done.
How many maraes took in people in the COVID and people that were homeless and no food? How many people how many iwis open up their maraes to feed people and look after people?
Yeah.
The iwis did it, the people on the ground did it. Government departments were only had a certain amount of push to be able to do that because of finances.
Yes.
It was a lot of people donated a whole lot of food. And which I've done. I've caught so many pigs and so many eels and so many things, given manuka firewood for hungies, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So people can do what they want to do and like for bereavement or anything else. And like sort of, Marie and Russell and the Gibbs family and so many people around here do that to try and keep a community spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because people suffer.
They do. What's the community like around here?
More diverse now, I think, from COVID as well as this Mount Messenger thing.
Yeah.
There's I think they listen to the media's story and don't hear the actual right story.
Media is so biased and they lie all the time. They're funded by the government, That's why nobody, it's like 27% of New Zealanders listen to the media and trust the media. And that's why everybody's on podcasts, It's,
It's years ago, these districts, many districts all around the country were community-based and community, anything went wrong with anybody, no matter what it was, people got together. They rallied round.
Yeah.
Now it's very much me, just I want to be me and I want to get whatever I want. But luckily we still have got people that do community things and help people, because if we wouldn't be still here if we didn't have that. Yeah. Because you just can't afford the legal system as it is. Yeah. I mean, New Zealand has a lot of problems, and community is the solution for a lot of these things. And respecting people like yourself and the knowledge you have of this entire land and the wetlands and the animals and the endangered species. You just got to go back to the basic. If you're going to get back to negotiating in good faith. Is the directive from the Supreme Court. Yes. You don't show up with all your, macho man specialist from Wellington. You gotta show up with, hey, Russell, what do you think? How do we approach this? And, how do we do this? How do we do that? And there was a walk over here, I can't remember, quite a few years ago. And there was a whole team of them here. I didn't know who most of them were because they don't introduce themselves and whatever. And there's so many of them. And we got pretty well back the valley and this guy said to me, "Where's the road?" I said, "Well, there's the orange pegs over there." Yeah. And he said, "I'll go up and have a look." And he got halfway over and he said, "I can't get there, it's too wet." He came back, I said, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm the man that designed this road from Wellington on desktop." I'm going, "You what?" He said, I've never been in Taranaki before.
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
there's a big spring back here by the Rimu. It's a massive big spring. It's right in the middle of this proposed road, like this massive Rimu is which I call the mother of the valley because it's very special.
Mm.
It's a sacred spring. You know,
Yeah.
this is a valley that's pretty spiritual, and there's people feel spiritual things in here. You know, this could have been inhabited by Maori many years ago, and I think it's stayed in its form like it is now, and should stay in its form because of its history maybe, but those things they're going to destroy, they can't mitigate for them.
Mm.
You know, we've got a spring over here from our home. A few years ago, we had a dry summer, and our concrete patio here was running out of water, and it's quite a few years ago now. And I think, shit, I don't want to buy water. I'm a man of the land. I don't want to buy water. So
Yeah.
I found old steel pipe over there coming out of a hole in the bank. I thought, oh, there's a nice little clean water coming in there. It was just cold ass. It was hot, very hot weather, but it was, there's a tui. Hot as, and so I put a 20-litre container there from a small piece of alkathene, and I went back a couple of hours later and it was full. I'm going, oh, this is interesting. So I had a coil of 3/4 inch alkathene here, so I put a 200-litre drum over there and put a fitting on the bottom of it and run this alkathene across to a couple of 200-litre drums here beside the fence, beside the driveway at the house. And
Yeah.
next morning they were full. I'm going, stick it on the patio. So we've never had to buy water.
Wow.
And that spring's going to get destroyed because that road is going to go through the massive sideline over there, which is going to be about an 80-metre high cutting over there. And my understanding is they need 660,000 metres of soil in the top end of this valley to fill the gorge to make it high enough for the road, and a lot of that's going to be carted from this cutting. There's a cutting halfway back the valley of about 400 metres long,
Yeah.
which is a box cutting, no benches, a box cutting. That's going to get carted back into this gorge as well. So the timeline to build this road, you know, they started this in 2022. It is now 2026.
Yeah.
And maybe only 30% of earthworks done. The tunnel's not finished. The bridges haven't been started. The temporary bridge to build the bridge on the other side is getting done, I understand. I don't get onto the construction side. I don't think I'd be very welcome.
Yeah.
But this could be 10 years still.
Wow.
And not through our fault.
Yeah.
Not through they've publicised it. We've cost them $350 million. We had them away out in 2017 and they said no.
Yeah.
You know, a person's got the rights to stand up for their rights
Yes.
and their land. And this is not just for us. This valley is for so many people because so many people have got so many other valleys, so many pieces of land. The legislation says it's got to be done like this.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court has come out and said it has to be done like this.
Yeah.
After over 30 court cases that has just been absolutely horrible.
Yeah, it has been. Let's take a break because I need some coffee and go to the toilet, and we'll be right back.
Thank goodness for that.
Okay, let's take a break. All right, we're back with Tony Pascoe. So I just want to go back to the Supreme Court success that you've had, that all of this procedure that they've been following has been unlawful. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Just talk to me through the whole court process, the High Court, the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court. It is quite a big win, you know, and just take us through that.
I think it is a very big win, and it's a big win that people should appreciate because it can be very helpful for them.
Yeah.
There was a lot of court cases, but to get to the Supreme Court, it was in 2022 we applied to the High Court on the objection and the fact that the property group hasn't got delegated authority and they're employed by NZTA, so it's a conflict of interest of what NZTA wanted and not actually what the minister wanted. So we went there. We lost that case, so we applied to the Court of Appeal, which they granted us leave to the Court of Appeal on a legal basis to go there over the 2 or 3 causes of action to do with all this, because I think there's about 9 causes of action that we put judicial reviews in to be looked at. But we went to the Court of Appeal on the fact that the property group, or that we understood the property group and the NZTA have got no delegated authority.
Yeah.
So in May 2024, we went to the Court of Appeal. We went down there self-represented. We got in there and we travelled down here from here the day before all the way to Wellington, got accommodation, stayed there, didn't get much sleep, and we didn't even drink. Then we went to the Court of Appeal, we went inside, the 3 judges come out and they asked who is who and who is what, who's the Crown lawyers and who's the lawyers for the Pascoes and who's their support people. And the head judge at the time, and I can't remember his name, sorry, he said, this can't happen. And we're going, what do you mean? He said, you've got to have representation. This case is big. We've got to get to the bottom of this, you know. So no. Have you got a lawyer? No, we can't afford a lawyer, sir. Well, why are you here? For the reason that you granted us leave to be here of this allegation and have the property group. He said, well, no. And he spoke to the Crown lawyers and asked their opinion on things and whatever. I can't remember what was said then. It was pretty overwhelming. But then he talked to his other 2 judges and said, no, we've got to adjourn this. And we're going, what's happening? What are you going to adjourn it? And he said, we're going to put a amicus curiae in. And I was a bit worked up when I said, what the hell's that? What is that, Your Honour? He said, it's a judge, it's a lawyer to employed by the court to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
I said, can we pick them? And he said, no. And he said, we'll adjourn this. And we went, whoa, what's going to happen now? So I think we were heading home. Debbie couldn't come down at that time. So there was something going on. There was just Marie and Russell and I, and we got halfway home, I think it was, and Marie picked up on her phone that they've already appointed a lawyer.
Wow.
And a date is to be set, and a date was set in July, a couple of months later.
Yeah.
So we went down again. We had no contact with the lawyer. Well, when I say no contact, very little contact with the lawyer that they had employed, because she said in an email that if we had contact or talking to her, she'd have to do the same thing to the Crown law. Yeah. We headed down to Wellington the day before again, the 4 of us this time, and still self-represented, as well as the court lawyer for the court and Crown law doing their thing. And the night before the hearing, Crown lawyers had put a memo or a thing into Sally Jepp, the lawyer that the Crown had the court had employed.
Yeah.
Because she'd already put submissions in that we'd read, and we'd put our submissions in. Yeah. But Rachel Rife, my understanding is, actually spoke to her and said, no, you can't have this, this and this and this in it. You can't have all these things in it and put this in front of the Court of Appeal. And we didn't know that. So we didn't have time to put in a submission or anything against that. So we went through the hearing. It was pretty tough going, very tough going actually, because one of the judges, especially one, but another one were a bit brutal towards us. But at the end of that hearing, before they adjourned that hearing, the middle judge, the judge that more or less took it, said to us, but also said to Crown Law, it is not too late for the minister or his delegate to actually negotiate. You need to sit around a table and negotiate this.
Yeah.
which we'd wanted for a long time.
Yes.
We'd wanted that back in 2020 when we wanted Lynn's representative or the minister to meet with us. It took us months and months and months to get a meeting with 3 of the personnel from Lynn's that had the authority to meet with us. One was a liaison officer, but the other 2 had all the authority in the world to meet with us, which they agreed to finally to fly up from Wellington to come to the Tongaputu Marae on the 7th of April 2021. And they were called onto the marae. They've got to say who they are and what they do, like everybody else does. And so we had a 2 or 3 hour hui with them. We wanted a lawyer there that we couldn't afford, and we asked them to pay for it under the PWA.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't. And actually Russell Gibbs paid for that lawyer to fly up. And so there was quite a crowd of us there from different people, and a couple of landowners involved with us as well.
Nice.
And some other people. But that meeting went well. It was emotional. Jerome Shepherd was one of the CEOs, or he was well up in it, and Trevor Knowles was there, which he can say whether what you're obliged to get under the Public Works Act and all that sort of stuff, and what you should be getting. They were sympathetic on the day, and we thought they took. We were taped. We were on record of it. They went home and said that but they come and more or less said, we're not here to negotiate. We're here to tell you how these terms work out and what's going to happen. And they said that you have to negotiate with. They want us to negotiate with the property group in NZTA.
Right.
But they would go back to their offices in Wellington and have a meeting with their people and make a way forward. Within 2 weeks, I think it was in 2 weeks or just over 2 weeks, that rooster's really good.
It's beautiful, that rooster. I might take it home.
We got email back from them and said that they did not want to negotiate. They do not want to meet with us. And we spent all that time and money and effort to get this put in place. They didn't. So hence, moving forward to that the High Court case and the Court of Appeal case that come out against us.
Yeah.
So we applied to the Supreme Court.
Nice.
For leave on the fact of the delegation is not legal, it's unlawful. Because the Court of Appeal said that we have to grant leave apply to the Supreme Court and and to be able to get granted leave to go to the Supreme Court. And there's only 15 to 20 cases a year that the Supreme Court may take on.
Right.
So we were sort of tongue-in-cheek, and we thought, we're not going to get there. But I think it was in March or April or something of May, might have been May 2024, the Supreme Court come out and granted us leave, which I think is a major and historic event to happen. The fact that they thought this was for going on for so long and all the court cases, and then for us to grant us leave is very significant.
Yeah.
Because I think they, I don't know whether they said it in writing. I know they said it on the day when we got there, but how important this and how significant this is to get this right.
Yeah.
So we had other filings to do and judicial reviews and things to be filed by time to the Court of Appeal again over other causes of action and decisions coming out against us from the High Court of costings that was from the year before and all that. So it was never a dull day, and there was never a day that you could have a day off, weekends, holidays or anything, because there was always timelines, and they always put a lot of pressure on us, the High Court judges and that, of timelines to get your submissions in, which they didn't do to Crown Law and the government, but they did to us. That they made it. They knew we were self-represented. They knew we can't afford to have lawyers. And under the Section 23 under the Public Works Act, once the 23's been put on you, there's no leniency, or there's no way any government department will pay you a lawyer because you've got a Section 23 compulsory take on you.
Yeah.
But if it had gone back into the Section 18, if they'd done it properly, we would have had the ability to have all that and get this solved. But anyhow, so we got to the Supreme Court on the Supreme Court. We put memos into the Supreme Court that were self-representatives, and they said we can't have that. You cannot come to the Supreme Court self-represented. So they put in a lawyer to represent, to do the court's job.
Yeah.
And it was the same barrister that went to the Court of Appeal that was put in place by the Court of Appeal. But she seen the workload and seen how she knew even in the Court of Appeal how complicated this was.
Right.
And with the Supreme Court, she said, this is too big for me. I need help. So she applied to the Supreme Court for another lawyer to help her, which the Supreme Court agreed to.
Right.
So it was sort of scary, exciting, if that's the word. We got to the Supreme Court. A lot of work.
Yeah.
Because we're still self-represented. So we went to the Supreme Court on the 14th of October, 2025. Went down the day before. Again, big trip. There was more of us that time, and there was people come from Hamilton and people from Wellington and people that have supported us, and people also had helped us with submissions and persons that had the ability and the knowledge of the PWA and worked in that system for quite a few years, so which was extremely helpful. And we got to inside the Supreme Court, and it was like hell. I sort of just got probably quite emotional, really. And a couple of people come up and introduced themselves, and the register come and met us and told us what was going to happen and come in. And so we went into the big Supreme Court area, and the 5 judges sit up in front, and we've got these seats here, and there's a dock in the centre, and they said that Marie and I had to speak first. And it's like, well, but we'd written up a submission, if you like, to lack of words of what we wanted to say, an oral submission.
Yeah.
But we handed it, we got permission through the register to hand it to all 5 judges, because I knew I'd falter to read it emotionally. So the judges come in and said who they were, and said, Mr. Pascoe and Miss Gibbs, would you please stand up in the dock and start this hearing? And I said something that this is, I feel quite nervous about it. And the head judge, Helen Winkleman, said, we know how important this is, Mr. Pascoe. That's why we're here. That's why we granted your leave. So get on with your oral. Okay, ma'am? So I before I started reading this thing, I was pretty nervous. I had to say my full name, the valley I lived in all my life.
Yeah. And
it had 18 hectares of wetland, over ancient forest, and over 46 species of native species, and many more. And I see one of the judges, the lady judges, sort of look at that, and so I tried to read the oral as much best I could. And then Marie spoke on a lot of the specialised things of it. Then Sally Jepp, the lawyer barrister that the court employed, she read all her submissions and her argument, and then her offsider, I think it was Miss Wright, did the same thing. Marie and I had a right to reply to that, so we replied to it. Then I think we had a break for lunch, or the Crown might have started just before lunch, but anyhow we had a break for lunch, and then Crown Law did their spiel. The judges asked her a lot of questions. A couple of judges were shocked of what she'd come out with and what her submissions were. And she even made the remark, even if we lose this, we're still going to take their land. And one of the judges said, I'm astonished. I'm astonished with that remark, Miss Rolfe.
Who made that remark?
Miss Rolfe, the Crown Law barrister.
Amazing.
It was amazing. And this was all we didn't know until closer to the end. This was all live streamed.
And the judge was not impressed with those remarks.
Not impressed at all, and the Chief Justice of New Zealand, she was not impressed by how the Crown acted and presented themselves to this case. That was the body feeling of this case.
Right.
And what was said and how they could treat people like this under a Public Works Act of disregarding what the Public Works Act and legislation states.
Yeah.
And as I said, it was live streamed, so anybody and everybody could have watched this, which a lot of people did by the sound of it.
Yeah.
Then she finished, Rachel Rolfe finished, and Marie and I it was getting on towards 4 o'clock, and Marie and I had a quick finish up, but and Rachel Rolfe's there, and she kept saying that we would not negotiate. We flatly refused to negotiate, and one of the first things I got up and replied and said to those judges, and I looked at them, we never stopped negotiating. We wanted to negotiate. One of the when Marie and I replied and showed them papers of the valley and the Section 18 that was printed on the paperwork from NZTA and the property group and the authorities of the permanent take and the temporary occupation, and one of the lady judges said, "Where is the wetlands?" I said, "The wetlands is all the temporary occupation and some of the compulsory take." And one of the other judges said, "Where's the? Are they going to provide an underpass?" I said, "Very good question." Because it's never been in any negotiations. Even though back in the High Court, back in 2022, it was spoken about then. And Crown Law and LINZ just keep avoiding it and keep avoiding the fact of what we're absolutely under the Act, what we're supposed to be able to negotiate and make a way forward. So I thought that was very interesting with the judge asking about those wetlands and asking about, and I told him about the floods, extreme floods, and some of that road would be scouring away. The water would be coming out of this valley 20 times faster. It's totally going to destroy the environment and right down through the estuary towards Tongapurutu.
Yeah.
So I think Sally Jep finished up, and they said we reserve our decision, and so we're sort of like, yes. Sally and Miss Wright, they spoke to us, and I remember saying to Sally, "Oh well, we've probably got a Court of Appeal hearing coming up." She said, "This is miles too complicated for me, you fellas. You make this miles too complicated." Rachel Rolfe and I can't remember the other lawyer's name for the Minister of Lands, come over and sort of got on, shake hands or whatever, and sort of, yeah. So and a few people afterwards, and a barrister that's not a barrister anymore, I went and spoke to him. He's a PWA expert. He said to me, "You've won this." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You fellas have done a great job. You've won it."
Yeah, sounds like it. Great job.
But yeah, you still got, it's a massive load on everybody.
Yeah.
So you don't know.
Yeah.
So when they emailed Marie a couple of days before the 18th of December to say the decision is going to come out, either we get to Wellington or you can do it on MRVs or MVR, whatever it is. 2 days is not enough notice to be able to get to Wellington to get someone to look after the farm, feed the animals and dogs and everything else. So we did it on the computer.
Yeah.
It was very nerve-wracking. It was, years of work, and we knew if we don't get the right decision here, it's going to be totally devastating, and there's still going to be court cases because we've still got an objection in the Court of Appeal. But if we didn't get a win in the Supreme, it was going to be catastrophic to not just us, to everybody, because that means there's no law. There's no law at all because of the law has been put in place under the Public Works Act and nobody's abiding by it. But so we've got a very happy decision, very good decision, but we are very pleased and grateful that the law and the judges have actually come out part of the law. 2 didn't, but that's for up to them. But 3 did, so it's a win for New Zealanders.
Yeah, I think the law and the justice and the judges and the Supreme Court deserve respect here. Right?
Yes, they do. Very much.
In the
so.
end of the day, all these peoples can act badly and do the wrong things. It's always good to take a moment to respect the law. It's still, it's been around. The concept of the law has been around for thousands and thousands of years, right? And there are still good people in this system, in this country, that actually make the right calls and make the right decisions.
As long as they abide by the constitutional law and the rule of law. And that doesn't that set the standard for where it should go and what people should be doing?
Yes.
To me, it's quite horrifying that these Crown lawyers and barristers can stand up in front of courts and mislead them.
Yes.
And misrepresent what the law is and try and rewrite the law.
Yes. We touched on this before, that the reason they behave like this is because they know that there is no accountability, there is no punishment, so they can just go aggressive and push, and the worst they can get is a slap on the wrist and a no, right? And so that's why they behave in this way.
But people do get more than a slap on the wrist. They lose everything if they're doing things like they're doing.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. That's right.
People won't stand up against these things because of the fear of that. Because as you said earlier, one person or 2 people cannot stand up against this. You've got to have a kilometre of people, a group of people to be able to make things happen.
Yes, yeah.
Because you've got no voice.
Yes, yeah. So where do you go from here? What is going to change with all these organizations involved and trying to get, these conversations with you, the project, the concerns about the destruction? What is going to change with everyone involved to have the right approach going forward?
That's a very good question. It's an answer that
because there has to be some changes, maybe, Luxon right now, the rumor is that he is workshopping who he's going to remove, what minister's not performing. This is a big thing on Chris Pink, I must say. Being told by the Supreme Court that your actions were unlawful, it's not a good look for a minister going into election. And the aggressive nature of these oil companies involved, people coming and going, and the disruption. There's quite a lot there that needs some really heavy thinking and major changes, because this is not just about Tony Pascoe and this farm. This is about a huge shift in how do we move forward, how do we do the right things, and everybody that has been harmed by this act over the last 30 years.
That's exactly right. And so it's up to them to start getting it right, and maybe some people have to be replaced by people that will actually abide by the law. I don't know. I haven't got the answers. There's been no contact with us from any of them since that decision come out. The undoubtedly will be sooner than later, but it's got to be done right, as you just said, for everybody, for every citizen in this country. And is it by getting around the table? Is it by getting people involved that know what they're doing? Getting people that have worked with this sort of stuff, with landowners, with business people, that know the law and know which way for these things to go. I don't know. I don't know. But it's certainly got to change. It's got to change sooner than later, because if it stays as it is now, it's just going to get worse, because they, as you said before, they keep getting away with things. Well, the Supreme Court said it's got to change.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court said it's either got to go back to the High Court to remedy it, or the Minister of Lands or his delegated authority, LINZ, have got to rethink it and start doing their job properly.
Yeah.
You know, this job here, as you said earlier, it's 590 million.
Yeah.
It's for maybe a bit over 30% of earthworks. Not half the job is being worked on, half the project. Do they stop it?
Yeah.
Do they put a pause on it?
Yeah.
Do they say this is financial insanity? You know, I worked out the other day for $114 million a kilometre at $590 million for the whole 5.2 kilometres. Well, they've just said $590 million for half the 5.2 kilometres. So is that going to blow out to closer to 180 or $200 million a kilometre?
Yeah.
Well, the Infrastructure Commission says roads should be between $32 and $40 million a kilometre.
Right.
Where is the financial restraint on something like this?
Yeah.
That the next generations are going to have to pay for a generation. And people are saying to me that know and been in construction for many years, this is going to be an extremely dangerous road, because their box cuttings is going to be rock falls. Even now they're bolting the hills together to stop them from falling down while they're building a road.
Yeah.
Why do we have another gorge road? They're going away from gorge roads. This is going to be massive flooding in this valley.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, this could end up to $1 billion worth of project. Well over. And that was, there is nowhere getting any return on that.
No.
And with the changes that hopefully they make in how they approach this, they have a think about the options and the path that they're taking.
Yes.
And go for option Z, or
Totally.
go for upgrades that they can already do with the Mount Messenger.
Totally. Or what they've done now, veer it off to come back onto the existing road, which has been already suggested to us by an engineer. You know, there's so many possibilities, but it's only going to happen if we get together and actually on even terms and make a plan forward.
Yeah, I'm curious about their plans once. If they do, very unlikely sounds like it, but if they do build this new, whatever option they choose, and build this new bypass, what are they doing with the old road? Are they just going to stop cars going past that and shut that and just let that sit like Chernobyl? Or what are they going to do with that?
Well, we were told over the years that because it won't be a state highway, it will be given to the New Plymouth District Council.
Interesting.
Because there's still persons living right at the top of Mount Messenger, and there's still property halfway up this side.
Right.
So who's going to maintain that road? And as a few people that's been in farming and business over the years have said, what happens when there's a catastrophic crash on this new road, maybe in a 235 metre tunnel where there's a truck blowout and there's a fire, and it hits a camper van or whatever, and so the serious crash squad has got to shut the road for 3 days.
Yeah.
So are they going to go back to using the existing road?
Yeah, it's interesting.
What's going to happen?
Yeah.
It's just over here at the moment out from my home, I said to the project manager in 2017, this culvert over here that comes out, the water that comes out of this valley, it's been there for over 50 years. It's got to be replaced.
Right.
In 2017, Rob Napier said to me, we will never replace this, Tony, because this bypass is going to, we will never replace this. Well, now, over the last 3 months, they've all of a sudden they're going to replace this culvert over here, and the culvert, Mangapēpeke, this is Mangapēpeke 1 culvert, the next one down is Mangapēpeke 2 culvert. Well, they're going to block the road over here for this culvert because they won't put a bridge in, a temporary bridge in. They're going to block it for 5 days. So there'll be no travelling public out of Taranaki North unless they go right through the middle of the island. But a number 2 culvert, they're going to put a Bailey bridge so they can keep the road open. But some people are saying they're blaming me because I won't give them land to be able to put a bailey bridge. We've already offered it, and they said, no, we don't want to set 1 foot on your piece of land. They've even surveyed it off over here so they don't put one piece of dirt on our land.
Right.
And the water monitor that's over here for this Mount Messenger thing, which I said a few years ago is on our land, and they kept trespassing to go and look at it. Guess what? It's in the survey line that it's on our land.
Mm.
So, it's just all about doing the right thing.
Yeah, it is. I think that's a good note to end this podcast. Thank you so much for your time, Tony. I do want to acknowledge your team, Russell, Debbie, Marie. You guys have been wonderful to deal with. You're amazing people. Thank you for your hospitality. Just quickly, Tony, where can people find more information about your mission here and getting people involved? You have a Facebook page?
The Mangapēpeke Facebook page, I think Marie said it's on TikTok as well.
Yes.
It would be a pleasure for people to look at it, and we've got docos, we've got all sorts of stuff on there, and we thank you very much for coming out and taking the time to hear our side of the story, because I think it's extremely important.
No, you're welcome anytime. Feel free to contact me anytime. You want to come back on the show, we can organize it. Anything happens, anything big happens, big news. I mean, I think there is a follow-up in here at some point.
This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Yes.
And there's a lot to happen yet, and I think people need to know about it.
Fantastic.
Because it's going to affect a lot of people. Are you going to be next?
Yeah. Well, thank you for telling your story, Tony.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.